In this video, I'll be giving you my honest review of this shoe, the Nike Pegasus Zoom 2, after running just over 1,000 kilometers in them. Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm Josh, a medical student, currently studying a sports and exercise medicine degree while training full-time for triathlon. On this channel, we aim to help you become a more successful athlete and a more productive and happy person. So if any of that sounds interesting to you, please consider hitting the subscribe button below. In this video, I'll be giving you my honest, unbiased review of this particular shoe. This is the Nike Pegasus Zoom 2. God, that is a mouthful. This is going to be a totally honest and unbiased review. I bought these with my own money at the start of the year, and I've used them for a massive range of runs, from my easy runs, my long runs, to my tempo runs, for interval sessions, for everything. And I've run just over 1,000k in these shoes, so I assure you they have been as thoroughly tested as they can be. This is an older Nike shoe and is actually being discontinued at the moment, being replaced by the Next Percent Tempo Zoom, or whichever quite one that's called, and hopefully I'll have a review coming out for those ones soon to be replacing these pair of shoes. And I'll be breaking down each part of the shoe, from the upper, the midsole and the outsole, and then telling you how good value it is. I absolutely love the upper of this shoe. It's not quite the Flyknit style like we've seen in lots of the new Nike shoes. It's got a little bit more support than that. It's a little bit more traditional compared to other shoes, but I think it's actually incredible. It's super lightweight and it feels really breathable. Although there's no air holes themselves, the material is really thin, especially in the toe box, and that is just creates a really nice feel in all of the parts of the shoe. At the rear, there is a little bit more padding on the sides and a small bit of plastic in the heel, and I felt this kept my foot really secure, and I've never had any problems with blisters in this shoe regardless of how long the run is. I know that some people find Nike shoes to have a slightly small toe box, but I don't know if you can tell on this shoe. The toe box is pretty substantial in my opinion, although the middle of the shoe is a little bit narrow. I find the toe box to be ample, especially in height. Get my toes wiggling around in there and it feels super comfortable. And although this shoe doesn't have a million separate eyelets that we see on some of the more modern running shoes, I find that I've never had a problem with lockdown, as it has a really nice eyelet system where it goes in one eyelet and out the other, really kind of creating that snug feeling on the top of my shoe. And I've never had a problem with feeling unsecure, slipping and sliding. It's always been a really pleasant experience regardless of the pace that I'm going in these shoes. So for me, this has been my favorite upper so far that isn't a Flyknit upper, and I'll be reviewing some Flyknit shoes in the future. Next, onto the midsole, and although this midsole is rather dirty now, I can promise you that underneath some of this British mud, there is some Zoom X foam in the sole of this shoe, and this is one of my favorite foams in the world, especially when it comes to Nike shoes. According to Nike, the energy return is up to 30% better than some of their other foams. I imagine they might be comparing this to something like the React foam that we see in the more easy shoes. The shoe feels light and bouncy throughout the stride, from heel, if you touch there, all the way to toe off, and it's a real pleasure to run. You can feel it bouncing back every stride, and it made every single run in this shoe super enjoyable. It's a great shoe that puts a smile on my face every time I get out the front door. And the midsole really held up on those long runs. I've been out to about 35k in this shoe, and only around that 28 to 30 kilometer mark did I start to have any problems with the midsole not quite giving me as much energy back. But barring that, for your half marathon, your 10k training runs, anything like that, you're gonna absolutely love the midsole feel of this shoe. And it even goes up to high tempos when I'm running my interval sessions or my really fast tempo runs to around 3 minutes 20 per k. This shoe still feels excellent, and I think that's a genuinely unique part of the midsole of this shoe, where you can go from 320, 330 per K, running really fast, having great fun, all the way down to, you know, 610, 615 per K on your easy runs or your long runs. It's just an all-round treat, and I've never had a midsole that's been as quite enjoyable and quite versatile as this shoe. And I think the thing with this shoe is that a lot of the cost of this shoe probably goes into the midsole, and if you like that midsole, then you're definitely going to be getting your money's worth. If you're a regular runner looking for a shoe that does lots and lots of different things, you can kind of cut down, remove some shoes from your rotation, I think this could be a great option if you are familiar and you like that Zoom X midsole. The outsole of this shoe is truly incredible in my opinion, and it's been super impressive. I'll have a better shot of this, but I'm currently looking at the outsole on the bottom of this shoe, and I can tell you that the rubber has barely worn off. I'm seeing a little bit around the heel and a little bit in the toe off section, but it still is basically all there. This kind of pentagonal pattern that Nike have tried out for this shoe, I think really works, and I've tested it through a range of different weather conditions, and I've never had a problem with traction. You know, even now we're coming into the winter here, there's leaves on the path which get mixed with some water into almost a sludge. These shoes are still gripping on, and I can say that I've never been worried about slipping and sliding. However, I have only run with these on tarmacked surfaces, and I've never had a chance to run on them with grass, so that might be a different scenario, especially if it's still wet. I wouldn't take this shoe off-road, it's simply not that kind of shoe. And now for some general points before I give you my final conclusion and tell you whether or not I think this shoe is good value. The general points are that this shoe, in my size 9 in the UK, weighs 231 grams. And that is a genuinely really light shoe for the size, and both without a Flyknit upper, with a slightly more supportive upper. I think that's where we're gaining a little bit of that extra weight, but it's possibly worth it, especially for people who aren't a massive fan of the super floppy Flyknit uppers. There's an 8mm drop and a 24mm heel stack height, and this should be quite familiar to lots of runners. It's not a massive stack at the back, so it still feels really, really responsive. This shoe in the UK currently costs £160 at full price, but now we're coming up to Black Friday, I've actually seen it dropped to around £120, and I expect it to continue to be discounted as we kind of come closer to them stopping making and stopping actively promoting this shoe in favour of the Nike Air Zoom Tempo Next Percent. And now onto value. This is not a cheap shoe, but I do think it's appropriate for those runners who are looking for the best performance in their sport and are willing to put a little bit more money down for a shoe that is going to be doing everything for them. It's a super well-rounded shoe. It's amazing to fill out your whole running arsenal, and I can say that if it wasn't for newer shoes coming out, this is one that I definitely would be buying up a few more pairs. Overall, I give the shoe a 7.5 out of 8, and that 0.5 deducted, it's really me being super pedantic. I'm only removing it slightly for a thin upper that isn't a Flyknit, which I actually prefer, and the ability not to be able to run on grass. The traction could definitely be a little bit better. But like I said, I'm being super, super, super picky. And that brings us in at a cost per point score at £21 per point. And we'll be seeing how this compares to some of the other shoes that I'll be reviewing in the future. Overall, I would highly recommend this shoe to anyone who enjoys running and just wants something fun to be able to run in more regularly. I'm really sad they're going to stop making this shoe, and I'll be super interested to see how the Nike Tempo Next Percents will actually perform when compared to this shoe, because if they don't live up to the genuine joy that I've had in this shoe, then I'm going to be so disappointed. And please, if you have enjoyed this video, consider subscribing, as I have more shoe reviews general running and triathlon content, and also a little bit of lifestyle chucked in there for fun. If you'd like to see any more of my other running videos, please click the playlist on screen now and consider subscribing to the channel.